Sounds like you guys have a lot of things planned for 2023, for sure. So I guess so what would be your moat in terms of like what kind of separates you from the competition, but also like makes it so that someone can't just like fork your project and do something similar and copy the audience size too.
Yeah, a good question, Kadim. I think there's a multitude of moat points, I'd say. But I think really, the base layer infrastructure, the way we've built it, it's not an easy thing to achieve really, and it's we've been building this in stealth now for over the best part of 1 year and 3 months probably. So it's taken a lot of time, and especially we're bringing forward a native DApp, which basically which not many layer ones launch. They normally launch a layer one and then expect other builders to build a DApp. And I think the DApp really is there to signal to others what's possible. And I think the fact that we have the contract automation oracle, which is unique, very unique, because others like Link, although they're fantastic for price feeds and other activities, but they're not highly customizable, and they're not flexible for different types of use cases, or the different types of information require different types of validators, keepers. Not everything requires the same level of security, consensus, etc. So I think that the amount of flexibility that Entangle brings, alongside the ability to do these innovative use cases which haven't really been achieved before, it's quite unique in how we're doing it. And I think with the amount of effort that's gone into it from a team perspective, it'll take a hell of a feat to try to replicate any of what we're building. Some components, yes, probably can be done, but as an entire construct in entirety, I think it's very difficult. And I'll leave it to Slava to potentially talk about some other moot points or differences.
Hey, actually, on the development side, I can just say we invite everyone to try to copy us, because I think if someone copies us, it ultimately gives us competition, and competition is good because it forces us to work harder, and also competition will show, for example, we thought of ABC, and maybe a competitor is going to think from a perspective of DEF, right? And I think that is very valuable because we're all here to construct infrastructure, the next level infrastructure in crypto. So to give a specific example of competitors, I will talk about it from an Oracle perspective. I think a competitor is Exceler, but I don't want to say this is a direct competitor because they're just approaching things in a different way that we are for perhaps different purposes. But just to give a brief about what is similar between Exceler and Entangle, we are both developing externally verified Oracle solutions. Now, what does externally verified Oracle solutions mean? That means that externally verified on a layer 1 blockchain. For example, if you look at Chainlink or layer 0, they're verifying the information off-chain purely. They don't have a consensus of keepers on-chain that, or initially off-chain, on-chain, that reach consensus between themselves. Layer 0 is a different animal though, because for layer 0, Chainlink keepers reach consensus off-chain, and then a relayer and a Chainlink keeper reaches consensus on-chain on one of the layer 0 endpoints. But that's not so important for this conversation. So Exceler builds on top of Cosmos SDK to do a blockchain, but what we have done in Entangle is we built on top of Ethermint. Why do we do that? Because the majority of developers only know Solidity, and in rare circumstances they can know Solidity and Rust and CosmWasm combined, but it's very rare that if I find someone that is proficient in both. In fact, in most circumstances, just from building and being in crypto for a number of years, from a you would have to upskill developers, and it's not as easy as it seems just to learn a new programming language. And and what Entangle and Axelar really does, it allows for developers to build complex logic for cross-chain interaction. For example, you may have an app that may need smart contract automation on multiple blockchains, two or more blockchains at the same time. You can't wait for a transaction to be done on the first blockchain before it needs to start in the second blockchain, etc. It needs to happen on all blockchains at the same time. And this is really what I think Axelar and Entangle specializes in. But the real difference between us and them is, as I mentioned, Ethermint, because that makes us EVM compatible compared to them, which means that you can write these contracts for complex cross-chain smart contract automation with Solidity rather than Cosm, WASM, or Rust, which you would do as a developer on Axelar. As a side, for example, for deadlines or roadmap, Axelar, they have been building, I believe, since 2021, and they're only going into testnet with their, as they call it, Axelar virtual machine. Or just right now, I think they just started last month in April. And with Entangle, we are going to launch the testnet for it at the end of this month or in June. I hope that answers your question somehow. There's other minor differences, but I think this is the biggest one.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like, on top of the technological differences, like, even your community